Kinota Braithwaite, welcome to the Tokyo Living Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Sam.
Now, some of our listeners and viewers might be familiar with you and the really inspiring work that you've done in the space of anti-bullying and with that type of thing through your books and through the presentations that you've been doing. But for those who aren't familiar with you, perhaps if you can just provide a brief background of where you grew up and what brought you out to Japan.
Okay, so my name is Kinota Braithwaite, and I'm born and raised in Toronto, Canada. And then I originally came to Japan teaching English, as many people do. And I have children here that are attending Japanese schools, and I also work at a international school here in Japan, in Tokyo.
Right. And when did you originally come out to Japan?
So it was like in 2006.
Okay.
So we're here for a bit, and then after the earthquake, we kind of did what's called the fly gin.
Yep.
We left, right? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
when the coast was clear, then we came back. About it's not that funny, but yeah, it was a pretty hectic situation. But we came back about 4 years ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, we got out for a couple of weeks, but even
Right?
coming back at that time, there was a lot of unknowns. So yeah,
Yeah, it was
it
tough.
was a
Yeah.
yeah, it was a very confusing time for a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah, very cool. And for people who are, I guess, a little bit more interested in more of your background, you have done several other interviews. I was just listening to another interview you did on Tokyo's second most popular podcast. Shout out to Lance Lee.
Yeah.
But you go into a little bit more depth around your background. But I did sort of want to today just dive into the stuff that you're doing and how that all started. This all the whole thing basically started from an experience with your daughter. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. So what happened was is that my daughter, her mom is Japanese and I'm African Canadian, and she was going to school, had a wonderful time at her Japanese school. But before she went there, in the back of my mind, I thought she might have a problem with bullying. Yeah,
Mm.
because she looks different than her classmates. So for the first year, everything ran smoothly.
Yeah,
We had no problems. And then the second year, then that's when, the bullying started with her.
yeah. And what sort of form did that bullying take, and how did you see her experience of that? I mean, yeah, how did you see it affecting her?
Okay, so for about 4 months, she didn't say anything at all
Mm.
about it. And then one day she came home from her school, and whenever I just cracks, it just burns me up. Like it just. So she came home from her school, and then she said, "Dad, I don't want to go to school anymore."
Mm.
And this was a child that like really liked going to school, had many friends,
Yeah.
and she just said, "Dad, I just don't want to go to school anymore." And then so I kept asking her. I said, "Why, Mio? Don't you want to go to school?" And I just kept asking her and asking her and asking her, and she was a bit reluctant to tell me. And then she said, "There's some kids at my school that are making fun of me
Mm.
because of the color of my skin."
Mm. Mm.
So that was it was pretty devastating for me as her father.
Yeah.
And initially, I was really upset. I was really angry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, this is quite relevant. My son is at that age. He's 8 and he's in second grade.
Right,
He's at a Japanese primary school at the moment, and
right,
but both my wife and I are Caucasian Australians, and so he's this blonde kid in a sea of
right,
Japanese kids.
right,
And I think it's probably around that. I mean, he's gone through Japanese kindergarten,
right,
but I think it's around that age, 7 or 8, that kids start noticing like differences in people. And
right.
and so it's always been something that my wife and I have been, concerned about, and knew that we may have to face at some time.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting how you've taken that experience and tried to, educate people on a larger scale. I actually sat down with my son Max and read Mio the Beautiful the other
Okay.
day, and we read
Thank
it
you.
in Japanese and English, and
Right.
and made sure that his translation was on point. But it was good to actually go through it, and as he was reading through the more difficult parts of the book, he was really sort of empathizing with
Right.
Mio, and he's like, oh my, oh, that's horrible.
Right.
And then you talk about how, sometimes you're telling her that sometimes people do say those sort of things, and then I sort of, turn that into a discussion with him and say,
Right.
have kids ever said anything like that to you, about the way that you look? And he said no, and I felt confident that he was telling the truth in that.
Right.
So that was reassuring, at least, at this stage, that it hasn't been an issue. But yeah, we understand that it could pop up at any time, really.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like I'm very happy to hear that, he's doing okay.
yeah.
So, but I wrote the book not only for non-Japanese or biracial or kids. I wrote the book
Mm,
for pretty much everybody in Japan,
yeah, yeah,
because for me, bullying is like a serious problem here in Japan,
yeah,
and I want to I want to I want to change that. I want to make sure that kids can go to school and just be accepted for who they are, not what
for
they look
sure.
like. Yeah.
Yeah. How long did it take you to change the mindset of the angry dad, which is, I know that's how I would be, to step back and say, maybe there's a better way of going about this that's not only going to benefit my children, but also, the wider community and the world. How did you sort of make that transition?
So I actually the reason why it's actually an interesting story because I used to live in the Czech Republic
Right.
for a little bit. Yeah, I lived in the Czech Republic, and they had a president there called Havel. And the Czech Republic, it was like a under the communist system, and then Havel came in, and he brought like democracy to the Czech Republic without using violence.
Right.
And then he said that if we do the same things, then we're going to get the same results as what the communists did.
Yeah, yeah,
And then so I thought to myself, I said, hey, if I go in there angry, yelling, causing a commotion, then what kind of role model am I setting for my daughter?
mm,
And what kind of role model am I setting for the kids that are bullying her?
yeah, for
So
sure.
it took a great deal of self control
Mm,
to just to go in there and treat this as like a moment to educate kids.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Um, and you said, bullying is a big problem in Japan. Um, Going through this whole experience, have you sort of researched bullying in Japan, and how, and if so, how have you sort of gone about that?
So I had a one of because I'm always on social media, and I had a professor at a university. I asked him to get the latest statistics on bullying. And I
Mm,
think it was like about 500,000 kids were getting bullied in schools.
really?
Yeah, it was astronomical the amount of kids that are reporting bullying in schools, and that's only the ones that are reporting it.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
so it was like a huge number of kids that were getting bullied.
yeah,
Um, and the government has made steps to like change the like anti-bullying laws, so they're actually taking steps towards that. But I mean, it's like the government can only do so much, right?
of course,
We as
yeah.
parents and as a community, I think we should band together and
Mm,
like try to unite and make schools safe for kids to go to and accepting because it's hard enough going to school with all the demands that the kids have to go through these days. So I just think that's why I'm writing these books, and that's why I'm doing these talks at schools
Yeah,
to
yeah,
raise awareness about this problem.
yeah. And do you think that it's different to other countries, and other cultures in terms of the degree to which it happens, the type of bullying?
Well, like I think that first, like there's bullying in Canada. There's bullying when I lived in the Czech Republic. There's bullying all
Mm,
over. Here, it's more like a psychological type of
mm,
bullying,
mm.
whereas other countries it might be a little bit more physical
Yep.
on like the stats. So, like maybe in Japan, it's like excluding people, systematically excluding them, making fun of them. So in Japan, it's more like an excluding thing, right? Where you don't
Mm.
speak to somebody or cause them
Yeah, right.
harm in that way.
Yeah,
So I think I live in Japan. So my first goal is to try to stop bullying here.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think yeah, the way the world is now with technology and cyberbullying, especially with older children, and we've seen the consequences of that, being
Yes.
quite catastrophic in some cases. I think that, attacking it from, the ground level when kids are young and trying to make children and parents and families aware of those concepts and try to get on top of that before those kids get older and really instilling those values and giving people a good understanding, I think is a step in the right direction. So you've written a few books now. How many books have you
Yes.
written?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
3 books. Is that right?
Yeah, that's three books. And the fourth one is it's coming on its way in October.
Yeah.
So my first book that I wrote was Meal the Beautiful, and that was based on my daughter's experience um, experiencing bullying in her Japanese school.
Mm,
And I've done like a video recording of that book, and it's available on my website because I don't want there to be any barriers to people actually using the book, yeah,
sure.
or reading the book. So that's on my website. And
Yeah.
then I wrote another book about bystanders called K the True Friend. And that's basically a book that teaches children to, when they see an incident of bullying, to actually not back away, but to stand up and try to help, right? So I've written a few books, yeah, and I'm trying to get these books into schools, and that teachers can use with their class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then how did you start progressing from that into the speaking that you're doing?
Okay, so I was just like on Facebook, and somebody from like Morgan Stanley called me. And I'm like, yeah, we want you to speak to our group in Hong Kong and in Tokyo. And I was like, Morgan Stanley? Well, of course. I'd love to, right?
Yeah.
And so they called me and they gave me the feedback on my talk. And I was like, oh, okay, I can actually speak about these things.
Yeah.
And then after that, some universities called me and some international schools called me. And then I
Yeah.
thought, okay, I can also get this message out there by speaking to teachers and then or even students. But I really like to talk to teachers because that way they can go back into their classroom and then read that book to all of their students throughout the years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's my goal. I want to get the book to teachers. And again, I offer the book, the worksheets, all the resources for teachers for free.
Yeah.
And the reason why I do that is just to do my part to help stop bullying.
Yeah. I didn't realize there was a bank that actually approached you first. So you spoke to them, their employees, about sort of bullying in the workplace, or how was that sort of structured?
So yeah, that's really surprising. So Morgan Stanley and a lot of these larger companies, they have like an employee network.
Mm,
So say their employees come to Japan from overseas, so obviously it's international, and they might have their children attending Japanese schools.
Yeah,
So that was like a big interest of them, and many of the parents were like had their children attending Japanese schools,
yeah,
and so they were like supportive of like of uh, of my efforts in bullying, yeah, or to stop bullying. Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, it was really interesting. Yeah, because I thought I'm a children's book author, like at the bank, right? But
yeah,
they thought, okay, will be something a little bit different, and that's where I started.
yeah. And how's it been received by the Japanese schools? Because I can imagine it's something that's quite novel and sort of foreign for them. How has the response been?
So I haven't really so the international schools, like my book is in all of the international schools
It's wonderful. Yeah,
because it was nominated for a Sakura medal. But in the Japanese schools, it's hard because of my language abilities
yep.
to to get in there. And then a lot of the times I'd like to like send my book there,
Mm.
but they only have like a fax number or something. Like, there's no way that I could get them to actually access it. So my goal is I'm actually speaking in October at the Tamagawa University Teachers College.
Okay.
So that's a Japanese school with Japanese teachers. So I'll be speaking to them.
Yep.
So I'm trying to get into like the university programs, the teacher education programs,
Yeah.
and then prepare them to go when they go to the schools. Then they know how to handle the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are the main sort of messages that you're trying to get across in these talks?
What I always say in all my talks is that uh, all children are beautiful, and um, you should make fun of somebody because they look different. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to actually spread a message of peace, and I'm trying to get people to unite to uh, to fight bullying. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's something that is really hard because you're trying to change people's way of thinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's you have to change people's attitudes.
Yeah.
But I think that so far I've got a lot of support from all different. Like I've got so much support, and thank you for having me on the podcast. Actually, thank you. Really
No, of
appreciate it.
course.
But I'm dedicating my life to just trying to help one kid at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, through my
Yeah.
books and through talking and speaking about this.
Yeah. And I guess what would your advice then be to parents um, who, let's say the kids haven't experienced bullying, or even if parents had children who they thought might be on the bullier side of things, like personality wise, like even if it sort of comes across that they're bullying their siblings a little bit and
Right.
things like that. You know, and they want to talk to the kids about the impact that language and that the words that we use can have on others. How do you advise sort of parents start with that sort of speaking to children in that way?
So I think what I think like it's a big question,
Yes.
but I think that what I probably would have done differently, say with my daughter, would be to be a more active presence at the school, at least as a foreigner. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that they would see my face and be like, okay, that's the darker skinned gentleman over there. Right.
Yeah.
And maybe have some sort of like activity where I'm interacting with the kids so that they would get used to having somebody that looks different around them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they would be like, okay, Mia's skin is slightly darker. Okay, that's okay too, because her dad is this. So I
Yeah.
probably would have done that. Um, try to like integrate myself more into the community. I think that was something that I could have done.
Mm.
And then I would have probably taught my child like some language, right? Like to stand up to the bullies, right? I
Yeah.
probably would have tried to do that, but I wasn't expecting all of this. Yeah, I wasn't like I thought, okay, she's okay. We don't have to do all these like exercises and like like what if somebody does this? And I thought she'd be okay. I was naive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think and I think that uh to be supportive, right? Because it really it really hurt me that my daughter didn't come to me after 4 months,
Yeah.
yeah, of enduring this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was really hard because I thought, I thought she would tell me immediately, but she didn't. I think just having like a open communication and telling your children that, yeah, if something happens at school, please let me know. We're going to be non-judgmental. We're going to just try to support you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because she was embarrassed. That's what the thing was. She was embarrassed
Yeah.
that this was happening.
Yeah. And understandably so, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if parents have kids that are already, experiencing bullying and that's already happening, what are your initial sort of tips and advice to go about dealing with that?
So the first thing is that if your child is being bullied, then you need to talk to the principal.
Mm,
You need to talk to the head. Yeah, and just like because like it's there's a difference between like some like kids disagreement and
mm,
then what the definition of bullying is. So what bullying is that it's intentional.
mm.
It's like repeated
Yep.
with the intention of breaking down the victim. Yeah.
Yep.
So if it meets all that criteria, it's bullying, and that's something that should be addressed to the principal of the
Mm,
school,
yeah.
because that's you're trying to break somebody down. It's not just two kids fighting over a football. It's actually they're actually trying to break your child down. So you need to address that through the principal and through the class teacher.
Mm,
And luckily for us, we had a very proactive principal at my daughter's Japanese school, and I can't I can't thank him enough. Without him, I don't know if she would have continued to be bullied, because when he heard I said they're bullying because of her skin color. He goes, what? He goes, skin
mm,
color? He goes, you're talking about skin color? And he took action. He called the parents up. He said, this is unacceptable. You have to stop this. But my daughter's teacher, she really didn't know how to handle she knew how to handle bullying, but the racial bullying aspect, she's Japanese. She's never lived outside of Japan. She had no clue. So I went to the school and I talked to the kids, and we had that resolved. So I think the thing is that if your child is being bullied, uh, you can't just sit. You're their advocate. You can't just sit back.
yeah,
You have to be like they're looking to you for you to do some action.
for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
and if that means like causing a fuss or getting like you have to make sure that your child is safe going to school, because the damage that can be done is it's just devastating. I think yeah, it's just devastating. So I think my advice would be this: is talk to the principal, talk to the teachers. If that doesn't get resolved, then you need to talk to the school board. Yeah,
Mm,
and
definitely.
get them involved, because it's yeah. If you don't do that, and you have to work fast, yeah, you can't
Yeah. Yeah.
wait and be like, oh, things are because for myself, I'm a teacher, and even I was waiting. I was like, oh yeah, things are gonna cool down. And then somebody told me, they're like, no, you got to move now. You got to
Yeah.
move
Yeah.
now. You got to go to the school now. You got to talk. And
Yeah.
then I woke up, and then I did something about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
especially in Japan, where things move slow enough as it is, to
Right.
have anything, take
Right.
action, it you need to do it quicker.
Yeah.
You said that you went to the school and spoke to the kids.
Yes.
Uh, what was their response?
So I came in and I said to my daughter's teacher that I'd like to come into the school to speak to the kids and tell them why Meal's skin color was the way it is. And then she was like, "Whoa, whoa, wait, wait a second here!" Like, she's like, "What are you going to say? We want to know the outline of what you're going to say." And I was like, "No, it's just going to be like, talking about like African Canadians and their contributions." And then we asked one of the parents whose son was bullying my daughter.
Mm,
We asked her if she could do the translation,
mm.
and she said yes. I'd love to come and do the translation.
Wow.
So the one of the bully's moms, was there doing the presentation with me.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
and then the kids sat there in their little like auditorium. I talked about like where my daughter comes from and where I come from and why your skin color is the way it is. And I said to them, "You're all beautiful children. You shouldn't make fun of others because it hurts their feelings." And then after the presentation, one of the bullies, he came up to me and he could speak English. And he said, "Mr. Kinota, that was a very good presentation. And I'm sorry for what we said to your daughter, Meal.
Oh,
And
wow.
please come back to our school at any time."
No,
And
that's beautiful.
I, um, I thought to myself, um, I didn't break down there like I wanted to.
Yeah, I can
I
imagine.
definitely was, choking up a little bit there.
Mm,
So when I left the school, I was like, wow, that was pretty powerful presentation that we all did together. But I
yeah,
thought, hey, you know what? There's other kids out there in Japan who are getting bullied, and then
yeah,
I thought maybe I'll write a book about this, so
yeah,
it can go into the school because I can't go to every school, but maybe I can write a book for teachers to have the language to talk to their students about it and to offer hope for kids that are being bullied, and then to have just parents who maybe their child isn't being bullied, but to have that conversation.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then, I mean, when you said you read it to your son, I was like, I'm really happy to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it's great. Really, it was actually a really enjoyable experience to do together and to open up, dialogue about this stuff with him. Because I mean, you talk about the bystander element as well, and I think that is so important because yeah, if there's more people on that, the good
Right.
team, then you
Right.
know,
Right.
over time, you'd think that yeah, the good should win out over evil if if there's more kids and more people that have a better understanding. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And how do you think that your messages sort of relate to the workplace? So if we're sort of to take the bullying behaviors that may occur in schools, and you know, some children may grow out of those behaviors. Um, Both the bullier and the bullyee. But then, some people may take that into adulthood and into their career in that, um, some of the damage done by bullying may limit their ability to function in the workplace and in society. And then same thing that the bullier may stay a bullier. Yeah, that's a part of their personality that they may carry into the workplace. And we know that, this sort of stuff goes on there as well. How do you see that, and do you think that you have the ability to make an impact on that scale as well?
So I really like I thought about it. Like I really thought about it, and I was like, okay, um, what if I, like I didn't intervene? What would have happened? Yeah. So probably with my daughter, she would have required like some sort of therapy, like some sort of intensive sort of therapy. And then maybe she probably would have dropped out of school at some point,
Mm,
which would have limited her educational like her progress. Like she might not like now she has a good chance of going on and going to school or going to college or but imagine that like nobody did anything, and she just like limited her educational prospects. So it's very costly, this bullying problem. Yeah,
Mm,
it's
mm,
costly for like the government, having people that have mental health issues
yeah.
for something that happened in their childhood that's
Mm,
unresolved. And it's very costly for companies because like if people have mental health issues, then they don't show up for work, and they, you know
yep.
what I mean? Like it's very costly for companies. And I think that that early childhood education experiences are really important.
Yeah.
And I think that if you want to have like a strong country, then you need strong children, because
Mm,
those are the people who are going to do the work in the
absolutely.
future
Yeah.
when we're old and gray and we're kicking around, right?
Yeah.
We want
Yeah.
those like kids to be strong and healthy and being able to work, right?
For sure.
So I think that yes, it is a children's book, but the concept of like respecting people who may be different than you, yeah, is something that I think we should all embrace.
Yeah.
Because I think even with your your work, you're working with people from all over the world, right? They come to your club and they have like they meet, and then they make friends, and it's the same sort of thing. It's just we're adults, but we're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
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 And yeah, because I looked at some of the work you're doing, and you're helping people to connect. It's not just like a gym; it's like a community space, right?
For sure.
Where
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
can that come from different countries and different backgrounds get together and like build a community. So I think yeah, so the lessons are like they can apply to the workplace, right? Like
Yeah.
and when people read the book, they're like, yeah, we should treat people with respect. That's the
Mm,
main that's the main message, right? Just treat people with respect and accept
yeah.
people that are different and for who they are, not what they look like. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Awesome. Are there any other sort of takeaways, any other messages you sort of wanted to get over to the viewers and listeners before we wrap up?
I think the thing is that I think the last thing I'd just like to say, and I always say this, is that I'm dedicating my life to trying to solve this problem. I can't do it alone,
Mm,
and I appreciate all the support from all over that I'm getting, but I won't give up. I will try my best. I don't have all the answers, but I just see a kid every day getting bullied, and I want to do something about it.
yeah. Yeah.
So I'll try my best.
For sure. Well, I personally admire the work that you're doing. I think it's amazing. If people are interested in, I guess, yeah, reading the books, which I think that everyone should do, and especially if you have children, yeah, the short children's books, very easy to read, and I think that
Yes.
they're very well written, and I think that they're very powerful in their message, but yeah, very succinct and easy to read. We'll put the links to the books. Is it easier for people just to go on Amazon, or where's the best place for people to purchase the books if they're interested?
Okay, so if you'd like to purchase like a physical copy, then it's on Amazon.
Yep,
So they can like search on Amazon and find Kinota Braithwaite and my author page.
yep.
But if you'd like to actually hear me reading the books, and so you can go on my website, and then I offer like the reading of Meal the Beautiful in
Yep.
English, and then I also have a video of my daughter and I both reading the book. So we
Oh,
have that
awesome.
too, right? So
Oh,
I
very cool.
really, really want I would like people to watch like the videos and get that into schools and get,
Yep.
to watch those videos because I think I just like the message to spread. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're active on social media as well. I know
Yes.
you post a lot on LinkedIn. Are you on other platforms as well? Facebook,
Um.
Instagram, Twitter?
Yeah.
Whatever you
So
find best.
I'm on. Whoa. Wait a second. Instagram at Learn with Kinota.
Okay.
And I'm also at on Facebook, and it's Kinota. Yeah, it's just my name on Facebook, so you can find me there. And so I'm
Okay.
always posting something about bullying or peace.
Yeah, yeah. No, I really enjoyed reading your stuff. I think it's yeah, it's relevant for parents and for just people in general. Your messages carry, like you said, carry over to adult society as well. So I mean, congratulations on what you've done so far, and yeah, keep fighting the good fight. And
Yeah.
yeah, we wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. Yeah. Thank
No,
you. Really appreciate it.
but no, we really appreciate you coming on and giving up your time. And I'm sure the listeners and viewers have got a lot out of it. So yeah, thank you. And yeah, maybe we'll speak again in the future sometime.
All right. Cheers.
All right, cheers, Canada. Bye.
Cheers.